What if we could encourage a corporate culture of pausing, where instead of pushing the last minute out of everything, instead we could take just a moment to pause, look, listen. What could change?
One of the challenges I've seen with people at work is that they're burning out physically, emotionally, and mentally. And when we ignore, reject, and suppress our human needs to belong and feel safe, we break down, we burn out. Just so we can keep going and going and going. It's a kind of broken culture that breaks people. I inform and inspire people to treat themselves with the same attention to detail that they treat their customers and their colleagues. The result is they're more engaged, they're more productive, they're more creative, and they're happier. Who doesn't want that?
In our technology-driven world, we're trying to hack time. We're trying to overcome time. We all get the same 24 hours in a day. But we can use self-care to get more time and spend it better.
Performance today isn't about doing more. It's about being better. So to rethink performance and culture, the question isn't about the latest technology so that we can increase productivity. The question is, what do we need as human beings so that we can feel better, think better, work better, perform better? 50% of the workforce leave their jobs because of stress. That means half of you are in the process of burning out right now. Health is actually not the goal here. Health is how we reach our goals. Culture is about care. Culture is about people. It's about relationships at work. And it starts with the relationship we have with ourselves. See, our bodies know what we need. Our bodies are our most essential tool to do our best work every single day.
Can you even remember when was the last time you had a good chat, but with your own body? The kind of chat where you ask, how are you? What do you need?
I think it's really important that we start looking at food as what nourishes us, but also how do we use food as a fuel for energy?
What I find is that we consistently leave self-care by the door when we go to work, and it has detrimental effect on not only our work culture, but also on our health and our society in general. I think that it's interestingly funny, not funny, that we would be very, very angry if we lost our career to health. But for some reason, we think it's perfectly okay to lose our health to pursue our career. And we need to change that.
When you hire me as a speaker, my job is to create an experience that includes the audience in the solution. I want to make meaning of something that we inherently already know as human beings. That's how we get aha moments. We realize that we already know it, and now we know what to do with it. I always start by teaching people how to ask the right why. What will it take for you to take better care of yourself every day? What is your big why? And if not now, then when? So when we learn how to ask the right why, we start creating change. We start shifting our mindset. We start becoming more mindful about including our most important tool every single day at work, our human body. In a healthy culture, self-care means self-commitment, self-awareness, self-responsibility, and self-expression. Because it's who we are that makes us great, not what we do.
Because we're all still human beings. And there is no app for that.
It's an opportunity we cannot miss right now to teach people self-care skills. Because self-care is no longer a personal problem. It's a cultural opportunity. Now, we need to look at how can we create strategies for thriving in this new work culture of ours. This is where self-care comes in. Self-care is how we can learn how to be more aware, adaptable, and agile, and harness change to innovate and grow without losing our health and happiness to keep up. And especially in times of change, as we're looking ahead at what's to come. what we believe about self-care might actually be what gets in the way of self-care. Before COVID, I heard about people talking about self-care burnout. What? How can self-care be what burns you out? But what if self-care is not what you think? So I want you to really demystify self-care and demystify what it means to be human and be a whole human. That is where our strength lies. That is the power of the human connection, and it starts with the connection we have with ourselves. See, self-care is not this list of perfect habits. Self-care is a mindset. Self-care is how we think. Because self-care is proactive. It's not a treat. It's not something we do after work to recover. Self-care is how we work better as human beings so that we don't have to recover. We need to be a team with our very own body. But let me ask you this, Adam, when was the last time you had a good chat with your own body? A really good chat. Like where you ask, hey, how are you in there? And what do you need so that you can?
That's good, Jeanette. It was more of an argument than a chat. You know, I sometimes feel like I'm at war with myself, like, oh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. How can I have a more, harmonious relationship with myself? That's a big question, right?
What if self-care is just a pause? What if self-care is that small pause where you can come out of stress and take back your power of choice? I call it power pausing. We become more mindful about how our thoughts are directing not only how we think, but also how we feel and how we interact with other people, engage with other people, but also how we show up. Instead of just pushing harder to get through, we pause. Pause. And see what we need to be able to keep going. Rethinking self-care and mental health in the workplace isn't just about adding more well-being programs and benefits. It's about the tools that we need as human beings so that we can learn how to navigate change. Working with my clients is such a privilege because I get to help them give their people the tools of the self-care mindset and set up a new framework for unlocking a healthy, more resilient well-being culture where people belong and work better. That also means we need to rethink resilience. Because resilience isn't about keep going and pushing through.
What is the biggest challenge for us to include self-care in the concept of a resilient culture strategy?
I think there's a couple of things. One is that we still think of time as something we're not in control of. And this idea that time is we just have to keep up because there's too much on our plate. And listen, there is so much on our plate. But the idea that we look at what is it that's making us more productive about who we're supporting, meaning ourselves, rather than just being more productive by hacking something.
Very powerful. Thank you.
Work-life quality is not about time. It's about relationships. And what's interesting about self-care is that your relationship with others and your relationship with work is actually part of your self-care too. The difference is the mindset. It's human to worry, but it's also human to care. So how do we harness the human advantage rather than thinking of it as a problem to solve? So if we're turning self-care upside down and we see self-care as the foundation for how we interact better with other people, how we contribute better at work and in our relationships, that's how we create impact. What if well-being was the foundation for a healthy culture, a healthy company, a thriving business? Well, it is. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I am so very excited to be here today at MISC Talk and being part of the important work that the MISC Foundation is doing to expand and give access to knowledge, innovation, and insight into how we can cultivate growth and quality in our daily lives. Since I was a little girl, I've been fascinated to understand what makes us happy and healthy human beings. And I realized along the years that it's not so simple because we're more complex than just a list of healthy, perfect habits. So today we're going to rethink self-care together so that we can harness our human potential, and especially in times of change as we're looking ahead at what's to come. Now, change is an interesting topic itself, because even though we're wired to survive and we always find a way to adapt to circumstances over time, that kind of sudden change that we experienced with COVID is stressful to our nervous system, because we don't know what to expect, and it's the kind of change that happens to us. And it can render us feeling powerless. This is where self-care comes in. Self-care is how we can learn how to be more aware, adaptable, and agile, and harness change to innovate and grow without losing our health and happiness to keep up. First, however, we need to break up with the myth of self-care. We tend to think of self-care as something that we do after work, when we're exhausted, when we need to recover, or when we come to the point of burnout and need a complete reset. We also tend to think of it as a treat, a luxury, rather than an essential core foundation for our existence. When we're running on survival mode, we are reactive, and we wait to take care of ourselves until we get sick. Self-care is proactive, and it's how we can focus on preventive health as well. But self-care is a mindset that comes before that list of habits. It's a relationship we have with ourselves that affects how we think, engage with others, and how we act and show up in our work and on our daily lives in general. What we have to realize is that because of COVID now, health is no longer a nice to have. It's a must have. We used to think of time as our most precious currency, but now it's our health. The change we need is to look at our human health as the foundation for a healthy company, a healthy culture, and a healthy economy. We must incorporate health, well-being, and self-care into our work strategies, not just our lifestyles. We need to consider our work style here too. It's no longer a matter of work-life balance, where we just juggle time to figure it out. It's a matter of work-life quality, where we include health in our everyday work life. The other thing that has become apparent with COVID is the importance of our whole human health. We tend to focus so much on physical health, but we must include emotional and mental health to be whole humans and thrive in the future. Now, we tend to think of mental health as mental illness, but it's not. We all have mental health, all the time, every day, just like we have physical health. The question is, how do we take care of it? But essentially that means we need to learn to listen to ourselves better first. We have been so busy for years running faster to keep up with technology. It's time to pause. Pause so that we can be discerning about how we take care of ourselves and each other, and make choices that support us in being at our best, instead of unhealthy choices because we're too busy to care. But let's be honest, when was the last time you had a good chat with your own body? I mean, a really good chat, the kind where you ask, how are you in there? What do you need? We ask that of each other all the time, and we need to start having that kind of relationship with ourselves too. What could change if you were to ask yourself the daily question, hey, how are you in there? And what do you need so that you can? It's a small, simple question with a big impact. This is how we can take charge of our daily health, by learning what we need at any given time, instead of ignoring ourselves until we break down. This is how self-care is a continuous part of our everyday lives, making choices that support our immune system, helping us perform at our best throughout the day so that we can be more present, feel more energized, have more vitality, and be more resilient, because true resilience comes from being supported rather than just using our bodies to work for us. We need to learn how to be a team. We need our bodies to take care of us as much as they need us to take care of them. We need to be a team with our own bodies. That is how we can create long-term and sustainable health and also success as well. The self-care mindset is how we work better because it's a key ingredient in our emotional intelligence, but also in our human intelligence, or as I would like to call it, our heart intelligence. We're shifting from a work culture running on survival mode to a work culture working on connection mode. With COVID putting us into a more isolated work environment, we see the impact of isolation on human health and our need for connection and community to be healthy. As whole humans, It's essential to the future of health. Our physical, emotional, and mental health is not just one or the other. It's an interactive and continuous relationship that makes us thrive. We need connection, and it starts with learning how to reconnect with ourselves. We might be wired for survival, but we're wired for connection first, and without connection, we end up running on survival mode. That's our modern life challenge. The disconnect and the impact on our health. We need to belong. We need to be part of a greater whole to be healthy. We need to have meaning and purpose as well. It's important that we acknowledge how we feel. Our emotions are important information. They're not a problem. They're an opportunity to be empathetic, which is a key ingredient in health, but also in leadership in the future. Think about AI, trying to learn how to be more human by learning how to feel emotions. So emotions must be good, right? Emotions help us understand ourselves and each other better. It's a key factor in human behavior and communication, and in health. To access our emotions, though, we need to learn to pause, just for a moment, so that we can bring our attention to how it feels inside. Mindfulness is a crucial factor in our future health, knowing ourselves better, being in touch with our own human body, physically, emotionally, and mentally, instead of just running automatic where we are reactive and end up losing our health and happiness. I call it power pausing. That small gap in time where you can make a change, adapt to a challenge in front of you, make a conscious choice, and support yourself in being at your best. It's also how we become more resilient. Instead of just pushing harder to get through, we pause. Pause. And see what we need to be able to keep going. That moment where we realize we might just need a glass of water, 5-minute walk, a stretch. Reach out to somebody to talk. Ask for help because we're stuck with the same problem for too long. Or maybe we're hungry and need some food. This simple support system that makes us healthy humans is so basic that we tend to forget to pay attention to it. We need to give pause, space, and time for us to be healthy. Imagine a culture of pausing, where we can cultivate a culture of care and be inclusive of our core human needs, where human health is not an afterthought or a side hustle, not something we do for ourselves, but rather because health is a shared awareness that benefits all of us. What I most often hear is we feel guilty that we're taking time out for ourselves for self-care. But in the future of work, health is how we work, how we design spaces, and how we manage time. How we use technology to support us instead of wearing us out because we're trying to keep up. Self-care doesn't take time away. It gives us time back because it helps us be more productive, effective, kind, and communicate. It's an opportunity we cannot miss right now to teach people self-care skills. Because self-care is no longer a personal problem. It's a cultural opportunity. Thank you.